We see a middle-aged man sitting inside an FBI interrogation room. Bruised and bloodied, he sits across the agents. His pinky finger is missing, and with no bandages around, he takes out a lighter and burns a wound on his arm to stop the bleeding. A dog sits calmly beside him. The agents stare in disbelief and warn him he can't do that here. Finally, one of them asks,
"Who the fuck are you two?"
And with that start, we're recapping the 2025 action thriller movie, Nobody 2. Do me a favor and like this video before we see the rest of the story. And then the story goes back in time. The man is Hutch, an assassin working under a handler known as Barber. His days are filled with missions, killings, and blood. But the more time he spends in this violent life, the further he drifts away from his family. His wife, Becca, waits for him every night at the dinner table, but Hutch rarely comes home. One evening, Becca almost texts him, "We need to talk," but decides against it. When Hutch finally spends a day at home, he notices how distant things have become. His kids leave for school, Becca leaves for work, and before heading out, she reminds him that summer vacation is near. Hutch tells her they should go somewhere together as a family. He promises to make the plan, but admits he still has one assignment to finish first. Becca wants to say something, but once again holds back. That mission turns out to be far from simple. Hutch was only supposed to steal something valuable, but it drags on much longer. When he returns, Barber demands to know why. Hutch explains he first had to fight off armed men inside an elevator.
"You guys having fun at the convention?"
We're not here for the fucking convention.
"Where's the card?"
Then another gang waiting outside with rifles. Barber mutters that he expected one or two parties to show up. Hutch corrects him. There were three. After wiping out the gunman, Hutch even had to face a Brazilian gang armed with machetes. Barber doesn't care about the details. He just says, the job got done. Hutch asks how much of his debt is cleared. Barber reminds him that out of $30 million, Hutch has only repaid $800,000. Years ago, Hutch burned the money of a Russian mobster, and ever since, he's been working to pay it back. But Hutch is exhausted. He tells Barber he needs a break to focus on his family. Barber gives a cold smile and wishes him luck. While resting after the mission, Hutch recalls something he noticed during the fight, a commercial for a place called Plummerville. Later, he shows his family a promotional video of the amusement park. The place is packed with rides, slides, and attractions. Hutch smiles and says, "This place has everything. Even Grandpa will love it." But the moment the kids hear that their grandfather is coming too, their excitement fades. Hutch explains that this was the only park he ever visited as a child, brought there once by his own father. He tells them he wants the family to experience it together, just once. Hearing that, they all agree. The family picks up Hutch's father, David, on the way, and then they all drive off, singing on the road. Soon, they arrive at Plummerville. Their first stop is supposed to be the water park, but to their disappointment, it's closed for the day.
"Hello?"
Closed, sorry.
Instead, they are handed coupons for hot dogs. At the stand, Hutch has a flashback of himself and his brother Harry eating there as kids. But now, the same bench is occupied by the local sheriff. The sheriff catches Hutch staring and asks,
"You got a problem?"
Tension rises quickly, but Hutch keeps it cool, apologizes, and walks away with his food. He rejoins his family, and together they eat before moving on to the arcade. Inside, Brady, Hutch's teenage son, plays and wins a large stack of tickets. He hands them to a group of girls who have been watching him. One of the girls' boyfriends doesn't like it. He confronts Brady and demands an apology for something Brady didn't even do.
You're giving her tickets, man. What if I tell you to fuck off? Know who I am? Last chance.
Things escalate further when the boy grabs the toy won by Hutch's daughter, Sammy, and tears it apart in front of her. Brady stands his ground, and soon a fight breaks out. The arcade manager rushes in, trying to end it. Hutch steps forward, attempting to calm things down. Becca insists they should just leave. The family starts walking out, when suddenly the manager smacks little Sammy on the back of the head. That's the final straw, and in that moment, the mask comes off.
What?
"I left my phone. I'll be right back."
Hutch, no!
The quiet family man disappears, replaced by the assassin underneath. Hutch dismantles every one of them with precision and fury. Finally, he slaps the manager across the head, the same way he struck Sammy, making it clear who they had just messed with. The fight at the arcade didn't end there. The police dragged the entire family in for questioning. While they sat on the side, Brady leaned toward his father and whispered that what he did back there was awesome. But Hutch didn't share the same excitement. A few minutes later, the sheriff, Abel, called Hutch into his office. Sitting comfortably in the sheriff's chair was a man named Wyatt. He wasn't just any local. Wyatt owned the whole town, and the amusement park had been in his family for generations. Hutch quickly realized the boy from the arcade fight was Wyatt's son. And worse, Brady had injured the boy's pitching arm. Hutch stayed calm and explained his side. One of the men had slapped his daughter, and he asked Wyatt directly, "If you were in my place, what would you have done?" Wyatt considered his words, then told Hutch he and his family should leave town immediately. But while Wyatt gave a warning, Abel had other plans. Once Hutch left, the sheriff quietly ordered his men to follow the family and deal with them. Back at the hotel, Becca couldn't hold her frustration in any longer. She confronted Hutch, asking why he had let his violent side show again. She worried their son was already becoming too aggressive, and Hutch's behavior wasn't helping. She even suspected he was carrying weapons in his work bag. But when she opened it, all she found was a bottle of wine. The same wine from the night Hutch and Becca first met. Her anger softened. She hugged him, and the two finally talked. Becca reminded him that from the very first day, she knew exactly who he was, because even back then, he had shown up covered in blood. The next day, the family tried to put it all behind them and enjoyed the games and attractions at the park. Meanwhile, David stayed behind at his old lodge. Hutch, however, noticed something unsettling. A police officer had been following them in secret. Later that day, the family decided to go on a duck boat ride, but Hutch quickly noticed the same police officer trailing them, this time with a group of thugs. Acting fast, he guided his family onto one boat, pretending he had an upset stomach. He stayed behind and boarded another boat alone. The officer followed Hutch along with his men, but when other tourists began climbing aboard, they were forced to keep their cover, blending in as regular passengers. Once the boat left the dock, the officer leaned close and reminded Hutch, "We told you to leave." Right after, the attack began. A violent fight broke out in the middle of the ride. Strangely, none of the other tourists noticed. They were wearing headphones, listening to the guided tour, and enjoying the sights. The officer pulled a knife and slashed at Hutch's hand, slicing off part of his pinky finger. The severed piece fell into the water, where a fish quickly swallowed it. With blood dripping, the thugs threw Hutch overboard, convinced he was finished. But Hutch wasn't done. Furious, he climbed back onto the boat. What followed was pure chaos. After escaping, Hutch called his brother, Harry. He told him about returning to Plummerville, how the place felt nothing like the childhood memory he carried. Harry explained the truth. Plummerville wasn't a vacation spot for their father. It was part of an old smuggling route. Their dad had brought them there for a mission, not a holiday. And now, Harry added, the local police were in business with the syndicate. At the docks, Wyatt and Sheriff Abel were preparing a shipment. Wyatt made it clear to the sheriff, no mistakes, no trouble. But just then, Abel received a call from one of his men. The officer warned him that Hutch wasn't just another tourist passing through.
Well, what was that?
It beat everybody.
What the f*** are you talking about?
Okay, I don't think he's just some tourist.
Meanwhile, Hutch contacted Barber. He asked what Plummerville really was. Barber finally told him the truth. The entire place was under the control of a woman named Lendina. She was ruthless, the kind of person who never forgave a loss. Anyone who cost her money ended up dead. For her, Plummerville wasn't just a town. It was a vital trade route for her empire. Barber warned Hutch to keep things calm before it all spun out of control. At the same time, Wyatt received a call from Lendina herself. His plan had been simple: complete this last shipment, pay off his father's debt, and then walk away from her. But Lendina made it clear there was no such thing as a final payment. To her, the debt was endless. She then called Abel directly, ordering him to teach Wyatt a lesson. "Bring me something he loves most," she demanded. Abel obeyed, kidnapping Wyatt's son, Max, and planning to deliver him to Lendina. But before that handover could happen, Hutch arrived. He lit a flame and threatened Abel, warning that he would burn the shipment to the ground. He reminded the sheriff that if the cargo was destroyed, Lendina herself would kill him. Hutch demanded that his family be left alone. Abel hesitated, then reluctantly agreed. As Hutch turned to leave, his eyes locked on Max. Hutch forced himself to walk away, got into his car, and started driving. But the image of Max wouldn't leave him. Hutch turned the car around and stormed back in. The fight was brutal. He battled through Abel's men, bullets flying everywhere. In the chaos, stray gunfire shattered a lamp, and sparks fell onto the gasoline Hutch had spilled earlier. The flames spread fast, reaching the explosives stored inside. Seconds later, the entire place erupted in a massive explosion, wiping out everything. When word reached Lendina that her entire shipment had been destroyed, her rage boiled over. Learning that the man responsible was hiding in town with his family only made it worse. Abel quickly called her, warning, "Bring every soldier you can."
I'm on my way.
Meanwhile, Hutch regrouped with his family at David's old lodge. He had also brought Max there. At first, there was tension between Max and Brady, but the two boys finally put it aside and sealed it with a handshake. Becca, however, wasn't relieved. She reminded Hutch of his promise. Hutch, weighed down with guilt, admitted that things were out of his control. He told her she should take the kids and leave him behind. But Becca refused. She looked him straight in the eyes and said he was her husband, the father of her children, and if he had brought this fight to them, then he had to finish it. Hutch left to meet Wyatt. The moment Wyatt saw him, he attacked. Furious that Hutch had supposedly burned the shipment, Hutch fought him off and managed to explain what really happened. Only then did Wyatt realize Hutch had risked everything to save his son. With the truth out, Wyatt revealed the darkest part of his past. Lendina wasn't just his business partner. She was the one who had murdered his father. He told Hutch exactly what kind of enemy they were dealing with. Ruthless, merciless, and already on her way with an army to wipe him out. Wyatt opened up his stash of weapons, enough to arm them for war. Together, he and Hutch prepared the amusement park as a battleground for Lendina's arrival. And just when things looked grim, backup arrived. Hutch's brother Harry made his entrance, ready to stand at his side. Hutch also freed a caged wolf dog from the park, unleashing yet another wild ally for the chaos to come. They rigged the entire amusement park like a war zone, bombs, traps, weapons hidden in every corner. Meanwhile, Lendina's convoy rolled into town. On the way, her men spotted Hutch's father's old lodge. She ordered them to wipe out everyone inside. Inside that very lodge, Hutch's family was together. Becca's eyes landed on a dart gun. She told the kids she was stepping out for a walk, whispered to Brady to stay strong, then slipped out to join the fight. The first man to face Hutch was the sheriff. He announced he'd be taking over the town from Wyatt and demanded they hand over their weapons. Hutch and Wyatt refused. The sheriff turned to leave, only for Lendina's soldiers to gun him down, his usefulness over. With that, the ambush began. Wyatt set off the traps. Hutch turned the rides, games, and attractions into killing machines. Explosions tore through the park. Gunfire shook the ground. Inside the mirror maze, soldiers were lost in reflections while Hutch planted bombs, striking when they least expected. Wyatt dragged enemies into a ball pit lined with landmines, but took a bullet to the leg before the next trap finished the attackers for him. Hutch sent one soldier flying down a water slide to his death. His father, David, stormed in with a machine gun, mowing down soldiers with cold precision. But another wave was closing on the lodge. Harry intercepted them, cutting through until only Lendina's top fighter remained. The two clashed in a brutal sword fight. Harry snapped his blade in half, sliced through his gun, then ended him clean. At the lodge, one soldier broke inside, only to fall to Brady, who stood his ground. Harry looked at the boy and said quietly that his father would have been proud. Then came the final showdown. Hutch faced Lendina.
Who sent you?
Nobody. I'm here with my family, making memories.
I'm here for you.
She sent in two female fighters who overwhelmed him fast. Lendina smirked, taunting him as they closed in. Just before the kill, Wyatt shot them both down. Enraged, Lendina hurled a knife into Wyatt, dropping him where he stood. She moved to finish Hutch, but Becca stepped in, firing the dart gun straight into her eye. Lendina collapsed, dead. The battlefield wasn't done yet. More soldiers stormed in, but David hit the detonator. Every bomb went off at once, fire tearing across the park. Hutch and Becca dove into the pool, the blast roaring overhead. Underwater, Becca pulled him close and kissed him. And just like that, we were back where it started. Hutch and Becca are in the FBI interrogation room, but before the agents could press them further, a call came through. Orders were clear. The FBI released them both on the spot. It's still unknown who ordered the release. Well, that's the end of this story. How did you like this recap? Let me know in the comments below. See you in the next video. Bye-bye.